Today's show brought to you in part by our friends at LTN Global. LTN is a technology and production company helping racetracks create and distribute content at a high quality and low cost. LTN Global offers innovative TV production services that help tracks raise their profile, bring all the TV tricks they've learned from other sports into horse racing, and LTN offers distribution services to get tracks seen in more online and offline spaces than ever before. Visit LTNglobal.com to learn more. That's LTNglobal.com. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal, coming to you from the Brooklyn Bunker once again. Oh my goodness, folks, we've got so much going on the network. We just dropped our monster podcast. If you're looking for the deep dive on the Derby, on the Oaks, check those out for sure. You can watch them on YouTube. You can listen as podcasts by the time this goes up. That will all be available. I will say this, though. We are doing a little contest, $100 free win bet on the Kentucky Derby, chosen at random to one person who drops a comment on the Derby Monster Pod YouTube page. I've had a few people make comments on the blog. No. Make them on the YouTube page and be eligible to win this $100 free win bet. That'll be cool. Want to encourage folks also to sign up for our free newsletter. That's going to be the way that you don't miss any of the great content we have coming up in themoneypodcast.com/email. And then also, if you want to check out inthemoneypodcast.com/plus, lots of extra stuff for the Derby as well. Actionable statistics, JK's tickets for Friday and Saturday. That'll be a high point of that as well. I'm sure those will be as dictated to me. You know, he's not going to be writing it. He's going to be running around like a nut, but we'll get it done. It's going to be so much fun. Really looking forward to it. Also, really looking forward to today's show. We've got one of the most popular guests we've ever had on the network. We'll talk more about that when we bring him in here right after this. Today's show is also brought to you in part by our friends at digitalrealestatecoaching.com. A lot of interesting aspects to check out here, whether you're somebody looking for a side hustle involving the world of digital real estate, or if you're a business looking to find new customers without spending thousands of dollars on Google ads. You can learn how to generate a flood of new customers by checking out digitalrealestatecoaching.com. And we thank them for partnering with us. Check it out, digitalrealestatecoaching.com. Very happy to be joined now by a man of all the guests that JK Plus One has had since its inception a little over a year ago. The one who has broken all the download records, always popular when he appears on the In the Money Media Network. My buddy, professional horse player, Duke Matisse. Duke, what's up?
Everything's good, Pete. Just another day in the horse racing world.
Where have you been participating most lately? What's been getting most of your attention?
My newest addition is Turf Paradise.
They've had a strong meet, right, with all those New Mexico horses.
Yeah, with no Sunland and Zia and all that. The one bad part about it is that the trainer out there, that Evans, he's dominating, but so anytime he's in a race, it's a little bit, it's not no value, but otherwise it's been really good. I mean, they have big fields and decent sized pools, and you know, it's been lucrative. It's been a good meet for me there, and I'm also participating a lot in New York and California and Florida, so they're my three main. I've kind of taken the year off with Oaklawn. Oaklawn to me this year was just, I never got into it. You know, it was like one of those. I think the weather, they had sloppy track seemed like every day. You know, so I just kind of passed on that. But I'm busy enough.
Yeah, that's only the 4 tracks to look at all the time is going to make most people's heads spin. So not too bad.
And down to 4 is good actually for me.
I want to talk to you about the Derby itself. I know it's an event that you love going to. Are you taking the year off, or are you going to be among the limited attendees there this year?
No, my wife wouldn't let me stay home. She loves it, so we got to go again. So
nice. Oh, yeah. We'll see you out there then.
Yeah, we'll see you there. We're headed out Thursday.
Oh, that's fantastic news. Monday, I'll be arriving. We're staying. JK and I. JK's insane because we're both staying. Like staying in Lexington makes sense, but not if you have to be in Louisville literally every day, which he does. So he is commuting every day.
Wow.
I mean, it's one thing. One thing to do it on Oaks and Derby. He's doing it every day. I don't know. I'm not sure he thought this through. But where do you typically stay? Do you stay in town there in Louisville when you go?
Yeah, I'm staying in Louisville. I always stay at a different place. It seems like every year. I mean, sometimes I'm out. Sometimes I stay out in that Hurstbourne area, and then this year I'm staying downtown. I kind of switched it up for try something different, and I'm actually flying out of Lexington. So Sunday I'm going to make a little road trip to Lexington. So
nice.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, very, very, very good stuff. Have you spent much time talking about the race itself? We had earmarked you to potentially talk about Rombauer for the Monster Pod, who on our Oaks Monster Pod, Michael McCarthy explained that the owners just for whatever reason didn't want to take their horse to Louisville. Have you found a replacement long shot that you might be interested for this year's Kentucky Derby, or what do you think of the race in general?
I did. I actually think Besos has a chance to get into it. He just seems like he's on the upswing. He gets a little better every single time he gets out there, and I think given there's no killer this year, there's no with Baffert. I can't remember the name of that horse. What was it? Whoever it was.
Life is Good or
Life is Good. Without that horse, I mean. And now no concert tour, and it just doesn't seem like there's anything just that sticks out. I think Besos is a horse that is just gets better. He gets better every single race, and he had a little bit of a trip last time from what I as I do a lot of trip notes, and I thought he was wide into the first turn, and then he was on the rail, and I don't necessarily think the rail was the greatest place to be. In the Louisiana Derby. So I think he's a horse that I think can definitely get in the try or super. And I think he'll be a little overlooked. I think he'll be at least 20-1. So
I think that's a very reasonable price to expect because there's a bunch of horses that have to catch money. One I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about is the favorite, Essential Quality. I'm curious to know how short of a price you think he should be, how live Essential Quality is going into this year's race.
I think he's going to be the favorite. I mean, you never know in the Derby, but I mean, I think he will be the favorite. I didn't love his work. Speaking of everybody worked good, I think going in the Derby, right. but him, he seemed like he lost the work. They said he got up by a nose or whatever right at the very end, but for him to even struggle a little bit against a horse like Spa City in a workout, that scares me a little bit. Maybe he doesn't love the surface at Churchill, even though he won there, in his maiden debut. But weird for a Brad Cox work to struggle to even get by a horse like Spa City. So, but he might not be a morning. He might not excel in the morning. He's never lost, so it's hard. You can't throw him out or anything. He's just He's got to be the favorite. I think he'll be, I would say 4-1. That's what I'd guess.
Yeah, on the math, that feels exactly right. We've talked about this a few times on the airwaves. I keep thinking about back to Nyquist, though, and I feel like there's something a little bit similar in that you have this 2-year-old champion with a lot of ones to the right side of the PPs that doesn't have like some figure edge, but still has those, that kind of buzz about him. And I had forgotten how short they made Nyquist. They made him 2-1. So
2-1, right?
Yeah. But then again, if this workout narrative takes off, it could be a whole other story. I think he's got to be the favorite, but I guess the jury really is out as to what to do with him. Do you figure but it doesn't sound like you feel like you can fade him with any authority.
No, I'm not fading him, but it's funny, in the Bluegrass, I actually bet a one pop exacta with highly motivated because I thought, which is interesting. The whole thing's interesting because I thought he was loose that day, highly motivated, and I thought he would beat him. And somehow, somehow essential quality got to me that day. That's just the way it goes when you make big bets like that. It just seems like it always happens to you. It wasn't that funny at the time because I bet it one way and I bet it for a lot. So, and I singled highly motivated and everything, but I didn't think highly motivated had any excuse to lose to him. So that being said, they say they're going to take highly motivated back in this race, which I don't think is a good idea. I don't think you ever want to go into the Derby thinking, okay, I'm going to take back, because you take back, you could get shuffled to 10th,
Right.
You start thinking like that. We'll see what the post draw is, but I thought those two were, very impressive. They ran the best figures out of anybody that's, run. So it's hard to throw either one of them out. I can't toss them. It's one of those things. I don't know who I'm gonna key necessarily like on top, but I'm definitely gonna. Besos is gonna be my horse. That's gonna be he's gonna be the underneath type horse. I'm gonna use him on top, but I'm gonna probably use him more underneath and just put him in 2, 3, and 4 holes and hope I can just manage the rest of the race.
Looking for that stinger to put in there with the logical ones. I have a question for you about it's more of a general trip handicapping question. Something that Matt Bernier and I have been yapping about, getting back to that bluegrass race. When you see a horse like highly motivated flip back to the wrong lead late, especially in a race that was run at a pretty even pace, they obviously came home strong, but it was run at a pretty even pace. I keep worrying that means, and the trainer doesn't feel this way, and he knows more than me, but I keep worrying that means that he doesn't want more distance. And obviously he's going to have to deal with more pace and more distance, the combination of which I'm a little bit concerned about for him, but he's obviously a talented horse. I was curious what you thought in general when you see horses messing around with their lead changes in the lane. Some trip handicappers barely pay attention to that at all. Others, like Matt, do a great job tracking it and finding signal. I was curious what that means for you as probably the most accomplished trip handicapper I know.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. For a horse, it's got to go another furlong. So I wouldn't. It's definitely not a positive. Right. I just thought he didn't really have any excuse, and to do that switch back to the wrong lead is probably that's probably why they think they can take him off the pace, because they're thinking, okay, well, he didn't want to be in front, but I don't agree with that. When a horse gets the lead, they should win, right. When they get it, especially the fractions he was setting. So I agree totally with you. I think it's a negative going a mile and a quarter. Chad seems to think the opposite, but that's what I'm saying. I think they're probably got the wrong idea. If you're going to take that horse back and you think he's going to finish better, why is he going to finish better when he had an easy lead and no excuse to not beat essential quality on that day? So why is he going to beat him this time? As a trip guy, I don't totally look for lead changes and stuff like that, because I'm watching pace, I'm watching trouble, I'm watching all that. But when you see an obvious one like that, you got to take that in consideration as a negative.
Interesting. So for somebody who's so numerically, you understand something about horses, but much more numerically oriented player, at a time of year like this, when there's so much chatter about the workouts, we were talking off air right before we went on about how many horses have supposedly been working so well at Churchill, with that possible exception of essential quality in that Spa City work. How much do you factor in that sort of softer information about who's working well versus this is what my trip notes tell me, this is what my speed figures and pace figures tell me?
Not much. I would say I do take in consideration that because Churchill is a different animal, I think that track is different than most dirt surfaces. I think you do have to like that track. If you dislike it, I think that's more important. If the horse works bad, maybe that's why I'm a little worried about essential quality, because I didn't really love the work. If you work bad there, generally you're not going to want to run a mile and a quarter over that track. That's my feeling. So he's a little bit on the fence. I think this could be a very interesting Derby if he doesn't run well. And I do I mean, my good friend John, who he clocks at Churchill. So, I mean, I always ask him who he thinks is training the best coming into the race. And that usually gives me an idea of a horse that I know I can throw in that's going to run well. You know what I mean? He's seen every horse work, you know, he watches millions of workouts over, you know, in the last, you know, few years. And he goes to Saratoga every year. So I see him there, and he just knows when a horse is working well. So that I take into consideration. I would always, if a horse is working really, really well over that surface, I would definitely throw them in. But I'm more, like you said, I'm more numbers. I'm more trips. I want to see 100 buyer, you know, going into the Derby. I want to see something or a horse that I think can run 100 buyer, you know, going into the Derby. So and I say buyer, but we do our own figures. They're just on the buyer scale. So that's not necessarily when the racing form buyer. So as everybody knows, Paul does all our speed figures. So I trust his figures better than anybody in the world. So, I mean, I want to see something, you know, that a horse is progressing, or I want to see at least proof that they can run that fast.
We're going to check in with Paul next week. We're going to do the thing we've done ahead of a few of these recent big days with him and Sean Borman shooting the breeze, and less giving specific tips and more talking about strategies and how they want to use some of the horses they like. That'll drop on Thursday, the night before the Derby. I will not be out that night, Duke. I'll be home talking to those guys. But I got to ask you specifically about one horse that Paul spoke about on our Kentucky Derby Monster Pod. He's gotten a lot of wise guy attention, gotten a lot of clocker buzz to this point. Mandaloun, where do you stand specifically on Mandaloun's chances? I was convinced enough by Paul's spiel about him that I did have an associate over in the UK grab a little of that 25-1 that was around on him, figuring he's going to be half that price. So at least I'll get to feel smug and like I have the value in a race that I feel is open. Are you on Team Mandaloun, or do you think there might be a little bit of hype going on here?
I'm definitely using Mandaloun. I thought he got a little off his game when he got a little left in the gate last time, and he just seemed like he got keyed up when Drew tried to rate him a little bit, and just something just didn't go his way. So, I mean, if he goes back to his race before that, I mean, he's a must use. And again, another horse that's supposedly training great at Churchill, you know, one of those deals. I don't know about that, but anyway, I definitely going to use him. So, I mean, he's not a toss. That's for sure.
I want to get a quick word on the Oaks from you. Then we're going to get to our handicapping for this weekend, the Golden Hour pick 4, a bet that I want to talk to you about in general too, before we get to that. But we talked off air a little bit about Malathaat for Todd Pletcher as one who's caught your eye. You know, you haven't done the deep dive yet on this year's Kentucky Oaks. Hard to do that and be betting 4 tracks a day. But what is it about Malathaat that's attracted your attention so far?
Malathaat is a filly that I've followed right from the get-go. Broke its maiden at Belmont, and the third race the horse ran, I couldn't believe she won. I mean, it was like one of these. I don't know what Johnny V was doing that day, but I'm not sure he could ride a horse much worse. You know, it was like one of those. And somehow she still won. I love when horses do that. It doesn't matter what their figures are, but when they run races where they should lose and still win, they just seem like they just somehow know where the wire is, and it's just the will to win. And then last time she proved that there was no pace at all in the Ashland, and she just, I mean, came motoring home and somehow nailed that past the Champagne, right? Past the Champagne, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, who got the big jump on her? That should have been her day. And I just think she's just super. I think she's just a super horse. So I would think she would win. I mean, as long as something doesn't go wrong. I don't know. Is Rosario going to ride? Is that?
I haven't seen the final. The final assignments on that, so that's a story to follow. We'll have the draw on. It's probably been announced, but the draw for the Oaks, for those wondering, will be Monday morning, and we'll be tweeting out all manner of stuff from the In the Money Media Twitter on that. Rosario certainly suits her, but I mean, I feel like I feel like no matter who rides her, I'm pretty interested. My one other note of positive, I'll say, since we're yapping about her, I'm sure I'll make this point on other shows as well. But for me, being in the paddock for the Ashland, she looked great, but she didn't have that like Pletcher cranked look either. You know, she had room in her like flesh to come on for some added muscle and whatnot. So I would assume when trained to the minute for the Kentucky Oaks, she's gonna come on for that last run for like kind of for sure. So
she'll be ready. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I like a bunch of horses in there. You know, I've been a Clairiere fan for a long time. I think Search Results is going to surprise people with how much money she catches. I did sometimes for a big race like this, it's fun. Just do like get the DRFPPs and just do like a cold read and see what leaps out. And what leapt out to me was Search Results with the 2 highest last figures, not by much, but by a point or two, all wins to the right side of the page, and then Chad Brown. So I'm thinking she's going to be among the ones who catch a lot of money. I wonder if we can get a decent price on Malathaat. It's going to be interesting. It's a hard race, but I'm really looking forward to that last Friday in April this year for the Kentucky Oaks. All right, let's take a quick break, Duke, and we'll come right back after this word. I'd like to say from our sponsor, but it's just going to be me continuing to yap when people see it. But then we'll come back and we'll talk about the Golden Hour Pick 4.
Sounds good.
There's a lot going on in the world of thoroughbred racing these days. Don't want to get lost in the shovel. The fact that our partners at Lone Star Park are back, racing back at Lone Star. They've got an amazing contest schedule. Starts this weekend, Memorial Day weekend. That's one you're going to want to circle on your calendar. 3 separate contests, various price points. Definitely an excellent excuse to get yourself down to the planet Texas and just in your horse playing in general. Don't forget about Lone Star Park. You're going to be hearing all manner of coverage for Lone Star coming up throughout their meet. We're starting special shows after the Derby, but why wait for those? Get started this weekend. For more information, check out LoneStarPark.com. Picking right back up with our guest professional horse player, Duke Matisse, to talk about this weekend's Golden Hour Pick 4. Duke, this is a bet that I feel like more than most in the modern parimutuel landscape still pays more than what I think it's going to pay a lot relative to the parlay and just relative to expectations in a world where I feel like so many of the pick 4s week in, week out, day in, day out get bet down below what I think they should pay. Would you agree with that assessment? And is this a pool that you participate in on the regular?
Yes, I love the wager. I think I had a little bit of maybe influence on the wager because I've been trying to get Santa Anita to do more stuff like this. Nate Newby is a really good friend of mine who is running Santa Anita, and we've talked a lot about increased minimums on wagers, and he loves the idea, and I think he had a really big part of why that wager started, and we talk a lot about it, and I participated in it almost every day because the dollar minimum really attracts my attention because it's tougher to make a good ticket when they haven't had the greatest of field size in Southern California because of the just the lack of horses and stuff, but the wager itself is just tremendous for somebody that likes to put together these tickets, pick 4s and pick 5s. And when you can put a dollar ticket in there and make the wager, a little bit harder for the general public, which helps me, of course, but the payouts are insane. They're always good. I mean, no matter if it's 4 favorites, they're good. It just always seems to pay more than the parlay, and what a great wager if you can have something like that. It's just something I wish they would do more of. I've been trying to get them to do something along that lines on a pick 5. I wish they would do a dollar pick 5, and I think it would be tremendous.
We're working behind the scenes with them on something you might enjoy. I'm not sure if we've talked to you about that offline. Not ready to be announced yet, but the fact of the matter is they're very creative, and the likes of Nate Newby and Steve Cook, who we've dealt with at Laurel, and of course Aiden Aiden Butler has put in several things that can only be described as horseplayer friendly, including running the races when they say they're going to run the races. A little
Yeah.
amazing that counts as an innovation, but it does. But
That's an innovation, running them when they're supposed to run.
the low takeout too, obviously, is
Right,
music to the horse players' ears. Well, let's get away from the general and dive into the specific, talking about this Saturday's sequence. It's runs a little late for those on the East Coast, but that's great. It makes it sort of a perfect get out play for everybody. We don't have Japan to stay up for late Saturday into early Sunday, so we'll wrap it up with the Golden Hour pick 4. We'll start off with race number 10 at Santa Anita, 8:54 Eastern, the scheduled post time. On the dirt, going 7. We've got optional claimers, non-winners of 2 types. Duke, how should we get this thing kicked off?
This is a tremendous race. I wish wish we could run a bunch of these at Santa Anita every week. But I think this race is not going to be one of those races where there's not going to be too many prices in here that I think have much of a chance. But I think you can get by this race with just 2. So that's a good start to a pick 4. I like Tigre de Slugo and I like Fashionably Fast. Both horses they were in races last time where they couldn't use Lasix. And I think it hurt both of them. Tigre de Slugo ran. He seemed like he ran in like spots. Like he wanted to run and didn't want to run. Like it almost seemed like he missed that Lasix, addition, because I had a huge trip on him going back to back. He was against the track. He was on the rail, which was no good. And key race, the Brickyard Ride race. It was just, I think he's the horse to beat. But Fashionably Fast is the class of the race, and Cutting Back, I think he hasn't sprinted in a while. I think he's really going to appreciate the 6.5, or it's 7, actually 7. I just love the Cutback. I think those 2 will get you by. I just think they're better than the rest of the field. And Baffert might take a little money with his 2. And, he's got the 1 and the 9, and I don't like either one of them sprinting necessarily. So I think we can get by with Tigre de Slugo and Fashionably Fast.
I saw the top of the ticket the exact same way. For the record, I popped Fashionably Fast on top, just thinking this was a meaningful drop and a good setup. That's a great point about the Lasix. And then depending on how the races run, it could set up just beautifully for Tigre de Slugo. I did want to ask you, is there maybe a story to tell about the 2 in this spot? This runner has not been out in forever, but as a result of that means those numbers we're looking at are 2-year-old numbers, and you're one of the people who helped ingrain this idea in me, Duke, that when you're looking at these horses who've been away for a while, sometimes they're better than the bare form just based on the improvement for age while they were away. Now, obviously, the horse has license to need the run, but McCarthy is not a guy who will hesitate to bring them back pretty close to fully formed. It's not like his always leap up second off the layoff. And I just felt like I haven't seen a Clocker report or anything, but just looking at the tab, the works 2 and 3 back look good. I just thought this was not bad paper for a 20-1 on the morning line, who I might want to have at least one little backup line running through. Can you see it if you squint?
Yeah, I can see it. His race 2 back was pretty good. As a 2-year-old, he ran. We had him running an 89 that day as a 2-year-old. Like you were saying, I do like 2-year-old improvement. The only problem is he missed a whole year, so that's a little disconcerting. But like you said, if you're looking for 20-1s, there's nothing wrong. I like him better than I like Leading Score, right. Or anything like our Shoot. I like him more than them, so he would definitely be maybe on a backup ticket.
Tap Back, the name of the 2. I realized I didn't give it before. Let's move on to the second race in the sequence. It's Golden Gate's 11th race, 9:11 Eastern, for this 5-furlong turf event. We've got a little stake, the Camilla Urso, for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. I was fairly uncreative in here. I'll give my thoughts quickly, and then we'll get what you think, Duke. I felt like the 10 acting out looked like the best speed and has been adept on both surfaces. The 4, Sadie Bluegrass, coming back very quick, but fit for me on numbers. And I feel like you leave Wong out at your own peril up there. I was going to definitely get the 10 and the 4 on some tickets, but I'm very open to whatever other kinds of inclusions you might want to make. What did you think?
Those are definite uses. I'm definitely using 4 and 10. You can't leave Wong out of any race at Golden Gate. and the horse is pretty consistent, and should appreciate the 5 furlong grass, I would think. A definite use. He's got tactical speed. He can sit or close. The 10, like you said, I don't know. His turf races were one good, one bad. But I think he had a little bit of trouble, I think, in his second turf start. He's definitely got the figures. I don't know about the 10 post. You don't see too many 10 horse fields at Golden Gate on the turf, so I don't know about that. That worries me a little bit. I got a long shot for people to throw in though in this race. I have a trip horse, Gypsy Spirit. Leonard Powell trains. Last time the horse had absolutely no chance. I mean, you can throw that race out completely. Like, he had so much trouble. Jock was not doing what he was supposed to do. And even before that, I had a comment that the jockey didn't ride too well that day either. And it's just this horse has had trouble after trouble, and maybe just cutting back to 5, he'll just come running late. And Maldonado was weird that he's up there for the day. I don't know who he really went up to ride. Maybe he went to ride this horse, but that's interesting that he ships up there and is going to ride on at Golden Gate. So I'm going to use those are the 3 I'm going to use. I'm going to use 4, 5, and 10.
Technically, the 4 would be if I held your feet to the fire for a top pick, you'd put the 4 on top, or would the value of the 5 make that one the
probably top pick 4 because he's so consistent and it's Wong. But the problem with that is he's not going off 9-2. I don't think.
Right.
Maybe in the pick 4 he'll be some value because I think he'll go off more like 3-1.
In a bet like the Golden Hour bet, though, you do sometimes see a little bit of that value preserved. But that's a great note on Gypsy Spirit, the 5 as well. 4, 5, and 10 for Duke in that one. We head back downstate to Santa Anita for their nightcap, their 11th race. This also kicks off the Golden Hour double, 9:26 p.m. Eastern. On the turf, going 6.5, 3 and up, fillies and mares, Calbred, first level allowance. I felt like the 5, that's Amare, was a real standout on figures and had the tactical speed to get a great trip. Duke, is it as simple as the 5 and move on in Santa's 11th, or can we get creative?
I'm not going to single the 5, even though she's definitely the horse to beat. She's got the figures. She hasn't been 6.5, but she's been 6, and there's not a ton of speed in this race. I mean, so she's going to be probably on the lead or near it. The interesting horse, I think, is Christie's Tiger. Now, I don't love the 10 post, but with not a lot of speed in this race, and she's improved her speed lately. Like, out of nowhere, she's kind of gotten close to the pace. And Rispoli, he's a great rider. He'll definitely put the horse in the race. And I think from that post, if he could ever steal away, like if he could get the jump on everybody, if he could get out and maybe stalk one and then clear, I think he'd maybe get the jump on the horse like that's Amare, and might just steal away. I like her turf race too, even though it doesn't look good on paper, but there was no pace in that race and she was last for some reason. And if you look at her PP, she's had improved speed like every race since. So the 6.5 should hit her perfect on the grass. I think it's probably just going to be those 2 because it seems like every grass race in California, it's Pratt and Rispoli. So they seem to just dominate those grass races. And not only that, I think they're on the 2 best horses. So
that sounds very logical to play it 10-5. Let me ask you about Pratt in general. This is something JK and I frequently argue about on the show. He seems, I'm just going to say it, relative to most people anyway, unimpressed with Pratt and feels like he'd be the 7th best guy in the room in New York. Whereas I've been genuinely impressed with him and feel like, he's worth more than that. I'm just curious where you stand as somebody who's not ashamed to put his opinion out there about certain riders. What you think of Pratt?
He's been, I think something clicked with him when Rispoli came to California. That they show videos of these 2 guys working out all the time. I think something has made him drive him to be better, because I agree with JK up until maybe this year. I didn't think he was anything special. I thought he was just another rider. But all of a sudden, it just seems like he's always in the right spot. It just seems like he's making the right decisions. It seems like he's stronger finishing, like things that he wasn't necessarily doing in years past, he's doing right this year. And maybe it helps that there's no other guys, I mean, when you're the top dog and you're getting the best, horses, I mean, you start gaining confidence and when you're winning a lot, and it might be that, but I think he's definitely worked harder at it. He seems like he's in better shape and he's riding better. I mean, it's just, I have to give him credit. He's right. He's the number one guy out here. And I think he can compete with, because I don't think necessarily the modern day jockeys they're not like Cordero. They're not like Pinkai. They're not dominant. None of them. Even Rod Ortiz seems like he is, but I don't know. He just always seems like he's on the best horse too. So it's just one of those things, But he as one guy that dominates, Rod does dominate, most of the time. So you gotta give him credit. So, but Pratt's riding great. I mean, you can't fault him.
I feel like, and maybe I'm late to the party, but almost similar to what you said about Pratt. I feel like I read as much as he was always winning. I feel like lately I'm noticing him being in the right spot more, and I'm complaining less about, maybe he's gotten a little more aggressive. I'd love to hear your thought on this. You pay far closer attention than even I do, but I feel like he's actually really improved in the last year.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he rode tremendously at Gulfstream this year. I mean, he just always seemed like, I mean, they run a lot of grass sprints, and he got horses into the race. I mean, he never used to do that. He used to take back and make runs. Now he's, it seems like he's decided that he's going to actually handicap. You know what I mean? Like actually look. I don't think he did that for a while. I think he just rode the horse just the way it came. And this year, I think he's doing, like you said, I think he's doing things that he never did. And that's why he's winning. I mean, he's paying attention. You have to pay attention as a jock. I mean, if you look back at what Pinkai and Cordero used to do, they didn't just go out there and just, if the horse dragged them to the finish, they didn't do that. They put the horse in the race. They put him in spots. They rated when they had to. They sent when they had to. They were always paying attention.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm pretty much done. I think the money is one of the, I think these guys make too much money. I really do. I think the modern, if maybe that would have happened to those guys if they didn't make a fortune, back in the day. But these guys make so much money. That's where all the money in the game goes. This goes to the top riders.
It is interesting how, it was cutthroat back in the day, as you remember. And there's, we talked about JK+1 before. Angel Cordero, when I think it was at a guest appearance on there, was telling stories about how strategic he'd be back in the day about like making sure all his work was done and knowing, basically having the form down and understanding what the tactics were. And then knowing that a lot of riders would leave it late and be like handicapping in the jocks room before the race, would make sure that it was the most of a party atmosphere it could be, blasting music, just trying to distract everybody else so they couldn't do their homework. Just part of his
he was a character, man. He was the best. I mean, that's why he was the best. Yeah. He had everything taken care of, you know what I mean? He wasn't afraid to float guys wide and put guys in tight, and he just did everything to win. And I don't think the guys do that nowadays because they know they're going to get that. It seems like they never get taken off a horse. If you look today, like Cordero, if he rode a horse bad, he didn't ride it back. He didn't get to ride it back. Right. If they put somebody else on, or Jerry Bailey, if he rode a horse bad, they took him off. They don't take anybody off anymore. It's insane. Like penalize them somehow.
Great little tangent here. We should get back to this race. I've kept you much longer than I said I was going to. We close things up with Golden Gate's 12th race, 9:41 Eastern. We're on the all-weather, going at 6 for the Lost in the Fog. Duke, how are we going to get paid?
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna give you anything that's super long in here, but I think maybe we can get by with just the Southern Cal shipper Peter Miller, Any Port in a Storm. He's been on the poly, believe it or not, but it was 3 years ago, and ran very well. And I had him against the track last time. I had the rail's always bad at Los Al, and I think for the fact that Pete ships up there, I think he's he found a really good spot for this horse, and it's a nice little stake, 75,000. And I just think he's going to be definitely one of the horses to beat. I don't think 6-1 is possible, maybe 4-1. And the horse he's got to beat, obviously, is Landeskog, which he's the big question mark. Never been on the poly and got all the class in the world. But he seemed to run good for Doug when Doug had him. So I don't know. I don't see any problem with that going back from, even though Cox is such a great trainer. I think going back to Doug, he ran even better for him. So I'm just going to go with 7 and 9 in the last.
I was trying to get a little bit creative. Actually, I don't know what price this horse ended up being. Oh, not as creative as I thought. Baja Sur ends up being 3-1 on the morning line, but creative in the sense of just trying to build a case that I felt like the setup could be similar to the race 2 back. And I felt like maybe could run back to some of the good races second time off the layoff. I was super spready in here, though. I could, I absolutely get the cases on the 7 and the 9. If I'm going to use the 6, I suppose that means I should also have the 4 somewhere, since they have form that ties in closely together. I think that your view of narrowing down will probably make ticket construction a little bit easier. But I am going to, on some combinations, I'm going to spread around a bit in here, and I might even use 5 different runners in one iteration or another. But in terms of backups, you think you'll skip that idea and just go super skinny on top 7-9?
I probably will, because generally my tickets at in this Golden Hour pick 4, I spread at Golden Gate and I narrow down at Santa Anita, because I think Golden Gate is not as trustworthy, form wise as Santa Anita for me. So I probably will have on a ticket. I'll probably have a big spread in this race. I probably won't do that in the other Golden Gate race, because it's on the grass, and I think you can get by in that race with 3. So I'll probably do that, like you said. I'll key off 7-9, but I may even have to throw in if I can narrow down enough, I'll even throw in an all.
Interesting. Okay, good stuff. I think for official purposes, I'm just going to call you 7-9 in this spot, and going to let you get on with your day. I'm so happy to hear that you'll be in Louisville next week. We'll talk offline about hopefully meeting up and getting to have some fun. Really excited to have this Kentucky Derby back where it belongs on the first, just like the shirt says, the first Saturday in May. Duke, thank you so much for your time today, my friend.
All right, Pete. It's always a pleasure.
If, like me and Duke Matisse, you're going to be in Kentucky next weekend, we've got a couple of events for you. The first is happening on Wednesday in Lexington. It's going to be the Derby and Oaks Final Answer Show. Michelle Yu coming in to do the guest hosting job. I'll be there. JK will be there. And so will Philip Shelton of Medallion Racing. You can get all the details about the event over at medallionracing.com. And while you're there, poke around and learn more about how you can get instant access to top-class thoroughbred racing. MedallionRacing.com for all the details on that. If you're closer to Louisville, we have another event to mention to you. This one is going to be on Thursday morning before the races from roughly about 10 a.m. to 12. A VIP visit to the new farm, the new sanctuary farm of the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, for a little Thurby brunch. There'll be alcohol, there'll be something to eat, there'll be a chance to see a beautiful place and learn more about an important operation. I will be there for that one. Hopefully you'll be able to join us too to learn more about our Thurby brunch. trfinc.org/players. That's trfinc.org/players. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. I want to thank Duke Matisse for joining us today. Always great to hear from him. Can't help but go down a few handicapping theory rabbit holes, and I feel like I learned something every time I talk to the man. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us and enjoying that segment, hopefully. Thanks also to our sponsors over at the Stronach Group, helping us and us helping them by talking about these golden hour bets week in, week out. Lone Star Park, digital real estate coaching, the TRF, Medallion Racing. We thank all of them. We thank our other founding partner too, 10 Strike Racing. Always enjoy rooting for those silks, the purple and the black. Most of all, though, I do want to offer that most sincere thanks from us to you, the listeners. You make these shows fun to do week in, week out, but especially when it's Kentucky Derby time. Hey, spread the word. Send our stuff around. When folks ask you who you like in the Derby, see if you can direct them to some of our content over at inthemoneypodcast.com. We appreciate it immensely. That's going to do it. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. Props to producer Craig for always making my life easy and doing such a great job putting these shows together. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornital. May you win all your photos.